First of all, I want to thank Pastor Campbell, First Lady Campbell, for this opportunity, New Beginning Church. My lovely wife, Tracy, who literally is my twin flame, my soulmate, thank you. And also my pops here today. My dad, Samuel Newkirk, the patriarch is here. So much of my framing for community and helping the man next to you, being a pillar of the community, helping everyone succeed, rising tide lifts all boats, comes from him. So thanks, Pop. I call him Pop. You can call him Dad. So today, the whole purpose of this is to provide you with a set of tools and strategies to help change your mindset, to kind of form it and frame it to a prosperity mindset. Last week, Pastor Campbell talked very extensively about the poverty mindset and how we need to shift that. So the purpose this week is to give you tools, suggestions, activities to make you think really deep about what's going on in mind, because what is deposited in mind will and must come forth. All right, so we're going to start at the very beginning. We're going to define what wealth really is. Wealth is actually an old English term. It's back from 1250, and in its initial connotation, it meant welfare or state of well-being. Its earliest usage just goes all the way back to 1250. And again, it didn't really change to have a materialistic point of view till about the 1450s. But originally, wealth was referred to as a state of mind, a state of well-being. So keep that in mind. It wasn't a car, it wasn't a house, it wasn't any element related to materialism. It's all in mind. So wealth is a state of mind. I highlight the term state of mind because the majority of our conversation today is going to be all mental. It's going to be all in your inner world, your self-talk, and hopefully by the end of this conversation, you're going to understand what it means for God to reside within you through your imaging, through your imagination, through your own thought patterns, your likes, dislikes. The world that you experience is through that. So what is my mindset? And it's a very fundamental question. The mindset is God for me or is God against me? Very simple. You know, we complicate things, we overcomplicate it, but it becomes very simple, especially for us that are believers. Is God for me or against me? Emotions are just energy in motion. We talk a lot about emotions. They're just records of your past life experiences and your interpretations of those experiences and how they made you feel. We go through this process and we begin to identify ourselves with the feelings of the emotions, whether it be positive, whether it be negative, and all of a sudden they begin to form beliefs in mind. So it's a belief about this person, the way that person looked at me. This person's from this location, he must act like this. They're of this race, ethnicity, sex, they act like this. That's a belief in mind. So the first thing that we're going to do, like I said, my purpose here today is to provide a few strategies to kind of help you recalibrate now, reset your mind so that you can unlock the infinite potential that God has placed within you for your life calling. All right, so we're going to start. So if you're writing notes down, there are about 6 of these, but I'm going to speak through them very slowly, very, very deliberately. We may even do a little bit of call and response to make sure everybody's still with me. All right, so this is number 1. Purify the mind and become aligned to a chief aim in life. So we're going to talk through what we mean by purifying mind. Have a definite major purpose in life, and that major purpose in life is how you orient yourself, your life, and your being. You know, we talk a lot about etymology. Purity is a Latin term, and it talks about cleaning, clearing out. You know, I used to hear this song. My mom used to play it all the time, sweep around your own front door. It references that. You have to clean and remove things so that your mind can become aligned with purpose. You know, Tracy threw her you next, so she talks about it all the time. You have a finite amount of energy that you can express, and you can't do it all. You have to determine, are you going to be this or are you going to be that? Genesis Block, the very first thing we do at Genesis Block in order to have our entrepreneurs purify their mind is we ask them to set a 3-year success target. Joe Conway can reference this. We ask them to say, 3 years from this day, where do you plan to be? And then what we do is we reverse engineer a process, plan, and a strategy to help you achieve where you said you wanted to be 3 years from now. So in order for that process to exact itself, you're going to have to go through a bunch of challenges. You're going to have to go through obstacles because we're literally shifting your mind. James Allen states, a man or woman should conceive of a legitimate purpose in his or her heart and set out to accomplish it. They should make this purpose the centralizing point of their thoughts. So your purpose in life now becomes your centralizing point of your thoughts, not the external things that are happening, not social media, not the news, not what this person said about you in third grade, the person that stole your lunchbox in line. You must orient your thought processes to that chief definite aim. Nothing can come from corn but corn. My grandfather used to say that all the time. My dad's dad, he used to say that all the time. Nothing can come from corn but corn. So we understand this in the physical world pretty clearly. We know when we put those corn seeds down, we're not going to get an apple tree. But we don't apply that same methodology and those same principles to our mental mind. So what we're doing now is we're helping you understand that that very same process that happens when we were out in the fields, 100 degrees, planting those corn seeds, waiting for those corn stalks to bear fruit, that same process happens in mind. In other words, your inner self-talk, and I want to define what self-talk is because you're going to hear me say that a lot. That's the inner voice that no one can hear but you. So when I'm saying self-talk, that's what I'm referencing. Now, 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, it reminds us that it is the Spirit of the one true God that empowers us, it encourages us, gives us discipline, allows us to express love, talents, prosperity, and helps us to overcome negativity and that negative self-talk. 2 Timothy states, for the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So if the God in us is everything, then there is no need to fear anything. All right, so you can write that one down. If the God in us is everything, then there is no need to fear anything. We must build a more intimate, dynamic, personal relationship with that is within, because that is what leads everything that happens in the external world. So Neville Goddard, and I read a lot of Pastor Campbell reference, Think and Grow Rich, and Tracy and I, we listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of things talking about mindset, because our first month with entrepreneurs, all we're talking about is mindset. We're saying nothing about business models, revenue streams, or none of that. But Neville Goddard, in Your Faith is Your Fortune, he states, doubt is the only force capable of disturbing the seed or impression. To avoid a miscarriage of so wonderful a child, walk in secrecy through the necessary interval of time that it will take the impression to become an expression. So it's going to take time for whatever you're developing within to externalize itself, because it goes from an impression inside, in mind, in heart, and then it expresses itself in the external world. He says, tell no man of your spiritual romance. Lock your secret within you in joy. Lock the secret in joy, not in doubt, not in fear, not in worry. You have to have that spirit of joy, confident and happy, that someday you will bear the son of your lover by expressing and possessing the nature of your impression. Then you will know the mystery of God said, let us make man in our image. So it all turns back around to us, purifying our mind from old patterns of doubt, old patterns of fear, worry, and impress new patterns of love, prosperity, achievement. And we're going to be led by the faith that the Spirit of God in you is now navigating your journey, because you removed all the things that are ungodlike. You become a vessel, a channel, a conduit for that prosperity. So, thank you, Pastor Campbell. So, we're going to go to 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 5:17, and for anyone that's referencing and wants to use just a reference for how you can apply biblical scripture to mindset. In my mind, 2 Corinthians and Mark are some of the best passages to help support that. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17 states, Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone. The new is here. There is only now. We created time. There's no such thing as time. An African gentleman, I went to Nairobi, Kenya in 2018 for the Startup World Cup. And after I won, it was such a shock. I got invited to all these different places around Africa. I didn't know the language. But they took me out into hinterlands. And the tribal leader said, that thing on your arm, no one had watches on. He said, that thing should say now, 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 now. Because there is no 12 o'clock. We use that to coordinate our activities and our efforts so we can work together. But we have the sun that gives us light during the day, or what we call day, and the moon at night. No time, right? So we are, in a sense, infinite. Time is a restriction that we've agreed upon and placed on ourselves. So again, that's part of that whole process of purifying mind. All right, so the first step in the mindset transformation is to set a clear, definite, major purpose in life so that you can orient yourself to align with that. Everything else leaves. All right, first step, set the clear, definite, major purpose in life. All right, so the second strategy, this is one of my favorites because Tracy and I, we talk so much about self-talk now. That's kind of like our thing. So that's what inspired this. So if you're ready to write down, number 2, censor the negative self-talk because they think what you think. All right, so censor the negative self-talk because they think what you think. Another way to put this in the power of awareness, and I think this is one of the most transformational quotes I've ever had read, seen, or processed. Others echo what you whisper in secret. So think about that. Others just echo what you whisper in secret. To break this down a little bit, others reflect what you imagine in mind. Remember, there is only one God. We are all just different and unique expressions of the one God. There's only one God. You got to really dig deep to truly understand what that means. So our life, our experiences, our circumstances, our fears, our challenges that we experience on this journey of life are reflections or manifestations of what we've been thinking about, or more importantly, what we believe or identify with. That's all that can possibly exist in your world is what you believe, what you identify with, and that's it. It's your world, literally. For example, has anyone seen our latest Salt Air commercial? Speaking of others, all right, so you get to that part when you get to the very end, just for the guys, ladies, you may not identify with this. And Tracy's like, did you do it yet? And I like snap back around in 45 seconds, nothing said. So she was echoing what I was thinking in mind. Oh my God, here she goes again. What's next? So the next thing that came out is, did you call yet? So those little snippets and those little things show to you what's happening in your negative self-talk. You're going to experience it. So why not change your self-talk to what it is you want to achieve? And just let everything else go. You know, it's like I read that it was in this movie. It wasn't a great movie, but one quote was awesome. It said, guilt is like a sack of bricks. All you got to do is let it go and stop carrying it around. So Luke, let's go to Luke chapter 12, verses 2 through 3. And this is very important because this really corresponds with others echo what you whisper in secret. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light. Let's repeat that. Whatever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light. And that which ye have spoken in the ear closet shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. This is why we must censor all negative self-talk within us, because you're speaking in darkness. The mind is going to keep turning. God is omnipotent. He's omnipresent. So even though that thought pattern, you don't want it, the fact that it's there, it can and must present itself in your world for you to reflect upon it. Because that's what he's doing. He said, hey, I know you're saying you're not jealous, you're not envious. But if you really are, here's another opportunity for me to show you why you're jealous and envious. And that process keeps happening over and over and over again. So what we're trying to do here today is to help to modify that. Most of the haters, demons, devils we experience in life are self-generated. right? So let's apply the principle on what we just said. If you're thinking, oh man, this person's going to do this, I got all these. I look at Facebook all the time. I had one of our clients. He was talking about all these haters he had, and I just said, stop it. And I kind of gave him. I was like, well, as long as you think there's a boogeyman there, pack a lunch, brother. It's on the way. Right? Just pack a lunch. I mean, you can tell really clearly where someone's mindset is, their point of view, and what's going to happen in life by just letting them talk. Right? Think of your mind as a garden and your mindset as the soil. Your mind is the garden, your mindset is the soil. The thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and self-talk that you keep active, because once you let it go, it's gone. But if you keep it active in mind, it will bear fruits by the means of experiences, conversations, circumstances, people, and situations that ultimately reflect those internal activities. So your mind is the seeds of thoughts, the ideas, the possibilities, and the potential. The mindset is the psychological environment in which brings forth those thoughts, those ideas, and possibilities, and manifests on the orders of the one God that dwells in all of us. So God is omnipotent, but you're a co-pilot. You're almost a co-creator in your experience by your thought activity, by what you believe, by your vibe, by your mood, by your disposition. Nothing can come from corn but corn. James Allen states, let a man put away his weakly and sickly thoughts, and the opportunities will spring up on every hand to aid his strong resolve. Let him encourage good thoughts, and no hard fare or no hard fate shall bind him down to wretchedness and shame. Let your faith be bigger than your fear, and understand that feeling is a secret. You see, faith and feeling are directly intertwined, because if you have faith, you're obviously going to feel good. If you know that the Father resides within, if you know ultimately you may have some challenges and some bumps on the road, but God has made his promise, and you know you're the conduit to reveal that promise. But the first thing you must do is you got to get rid of all of the stuff. And that's what I call it now, the doubts, the fears, the worries, the worst case scenarios. Has anyone ever met a person that can find a problem for every solution? You got to disconnect from that guy or gal, because they're going to create a psychological environment that eventually you're going to start doing the same thing. They're going to find a problem for every solution, because some are kind of wired that way. They're not full believers. They're in their process. But when you truly believe, you understand, I can't do the negative thinking anymore, because I'm going to experience it, because God is all powerful. It is what it is. We can talk till our tongue falls out, but nothing can come from corn but corn. All right, so now we've purified our mind, because that's what this is about, the process of purifying your mind so that God can now have an empty vessel. Whenever, I think I researched, there are 27 times in the Bible when this childlike, be childlike. What they're saying is being empty-minded. Children don't have a point of view. They're blank. They're a blank slate. This is why they're so happy and they take on things. My kids are 9 and 11, and Sissy has her own world that she's experiences. You know, we know she has some challenges visually, but the point is, the way she's created her own solar system, that's God in mind. So we cannot get entangled in the world. Be of the world, but not in it. Sometimes we need to disentangle from our senses, from the world, so that we can be led by our vision and not by sight. So I really want to define what the world is. The world is your eyes, your ears, your nose, taste, touch, your perceptions, beliefs, your value systems, zodiac signs, political parties, spirit animals, all of those things, time. All of those things are of the world. And they only reflect your perception of the world, which is your mindset, your set point for life. So John 17th verse, this is 14 through 17. I have given them thy word, and the word hath hated them, because the world hath hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. The God within you is disconnected from all of these things, these challenges that you're worried about. He's like, what are you talking about? We're omnipotent. We're good, bro. Just relax. But because of our thought patterns, we gas it up. We intensify scenarios in our own mind that aren't even there. I want to finish this, though. I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but that thou shouldest keep them from the evil. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Sanctify them through thy truth, because the word is truth, right? The word is truth. Your perceptions, you're just confirming them a lot of times. Because remember, nothing can come from corn but corn. So if you say this person, my husband or my wife, is this main evil person, as Pastor Campbell alluded to before, that's what you're going to experience. But their experience with the other 99% of the world is that they're this happiest, joyous person. Because you've defined the experience that you have in your world with the subjects of your world. All right, so self-talk. Now, let's go to number 3, my favorite. And if anybody's been a part of Genesis Block or looks at my social media posts, you probably see this at least 2,000 times a year. Feed the focus, starve the distraction. Feed the focus and starve the distraction. Remember, you become a resident or citizen of where you dwell in mind. So if you're dwelling in thoughts of doubt, fear, worry, that's your citizenship. In order to get a passport to go anywhere else, you're going to have to shift that thinking in mind. The mindset you choose is the chief executive officer of your experiences, your relationships, your circumstances, and your situations here on earth. And as a man thinketh, Allen states, the body is the servant of the mind. It obeys the operations of the mind, whether they be deliberately chosen or automatically expressed. Remember, God is omnipotent. It's happening all of the time. What deposits in is going to bring forth. Has anyone done any, we call it mind auditing or mind mapping or journaling your thoughts. It's an incredible process. I recommend just do it for 7 days. I did it for 21 days about 4 to 5 months ago. And now you must have honesty and integrity. You can do it with no self-condemnation. You're just the observer. You're just watching what you're thinking. The purpose of this exercise is to demonstrate to you that your world is justly ordered and in 100% total alignment with your thought activity and how you perceive yourself as an individual within all of this. If you receive or you think of yourself as being empowered, you're going to have experiences, or God is going to provide you opportunities to express that empowerment. But on the other side of that, if you feel disempowered, if you feel you're the victim, then God is going to grant you thousands of opportunities that reflect the fact that you're a victim. So God makes no mistakes. And the teachings of Jesus provides us the tools to elevate our mindset and become one with the Father and enjoy peace, serenity, and harmony in our experiences here on earth. But it is an absolute choice. Earlier we discussed the importance of having a clearly divine purpose in life. Some call it a chief definite aim. Some call it, my fantasy, my dream. But really defining yourself in that. Now, your inner world, that self-talk that we talked about early on, it must become aligned with that focus. So I said since I was a little kid, and my grandfather, he bought like a stack of encyclopedias to Grandma Inez's house. Dad knows about this. And I used to read them all the time. This is how I learned about Wall Street, about finance. It was at a very, very, very young age. I remember it was an Encyclopedia Britannica from 1977. And I used to just read them. And my Grandma Inez had in the house, they had a very strict rule. You couldn't eat at the table and read, right? I don't know if anybody else is Southern, but you don't eat, you don't read at the table. But my Grandma Inez let me do it. And she convinced my grandfather, let the boy read. Just let him read. And from that, it inspired all of these things. At a very young age, I knew I was going to build a billion-dollar company and come home and help my community. From the very beginning, all of the other seedlings, watching my grandfather drive around in the van, picking up everyone from the church, watching my dad, his homeboys are a little bit older in age, so he's taking them around to doctor's appointments. All of those seedlings formed the foundation for what Genesis Block ultimately became. So we must sacrifice the distractions in mind. That's the sacrificing. That's the surrender. We think it's sacrificing in our time in the external world. No, 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 no. It's the internal world. That's the driver. That's the causal implications are happening inside. So the sacrifice has to be to those negative thought patterns, that negative disposition, that negative perception. My grandma used to say, "Why are you looking like a mule eating briars with that frown on your face?" Right? So if you're looking like a mule eating briars, you're telling the entire energy system, let's give her something to maintain that look, because she wants to look that way. Nothing can come from corn but corn. So let's go to Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world. What do you think they're referencing? Because we just broke that down. Don't conform to the patterns of your past thinking, because that's what your world is. It's your past thinking, it's your past experiences. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now we're going to import that chief definitive aim, that chief purpose in life. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. The Gospel of Thomas states, a grapevine planted away from the Father has no vitality. It will be torn up by its roots and will perish. So to be grounded by the Father means to be rooted in this true origin of not who we are, not born August 12, 1977, Burgard, North Carolina, 6:30 at Pender Memorial Hospital, lives in Wilmington. That's who you are, but what you are. This means acknowledging and accepting that your provisions are a direct result of your relationship with the one true God. That's recognizing what you are. Even the purest water will soon stagnate when cut off from its original source. So you have to stay connected. And we are all, 85% water? So we have to stay connected to that which is our source. At Genesis Block, we're constantly reminding entrepreneurs to stay connected to that 3-year success target, because that's what's going to orient you. That's why you're doing it. Once you fall away from that, things begin to crumble. And Tracy and I, we've been doing this for 4 years now. And as we started Genesis Block, we came back, it was around the time of George Floyd. It's 2020. We're sitting here in this environment with a history of 1898. We had an edge to us. We're going to show them. We're going to do this. And every door we ran into, it was get smack dab in the face. The minute we aligned our heart with that, what it is, we sought in heart. We had a really pure purpose. We wanted to help people. We wanted to help our community. We wanted to build the entrepreneur class, but we got caught up in the minutia. Once we centered, it started. So that's kind of our guiding purpose. And we kind of challenge ourselves when things start getting tough, when they're becoming these obstacles, nothing can come from corn but corn. Where are we at really? Are we feeding the focus, or are we focusing ourselves and our attention? Your attention is your currency in the universe, on things that don't matter. So the next strategy, I think this is number 4 or 5. Y'all help me out here. 4, aimlessness is a vice. Right, they are perfect. It's in big words. Aimlessness is a vice. And we define a vice as a wicked or moral act or behavior. Aimlessness is a vice. So let's break that down a little bit further. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 32 through 33, I think is brilliant. It says, for the aimless wandering of the thoughtless will kill them, and the smug overconfidence of fools will destroy them. But those who pay attention to me will live securely, untroubled by fear or misfortune. So for hundreds of years, we've been told, like I said before, who we are, what to think, why we should think it, and we've been given vivid reminders of the consequences if we don't do that. But do we know how to think? Like how to use this tool? The Hermetica said that God granted us with 2 gifts, speech and mind. Or actually, mind and speech is the exact order. So those are the gifts that God gave us. And he says you needed nothing on this journey. He didn't say anything. Mind and speech has nothing to do with our physical interaction with the world. They're all dedicated exclusively to us, and these are our gifts. So next point, distracted people distract people. Distracted people distract people. I don't know if most people hadn't been around. I'm a really kind of organized in my thinking. Tracy knows this, I have 700 pages of work that I've done since 2014, since I started this journey. I showed her a picture from 2014. It was about 3 months after Ann Claire had her stroke, and I was literally at the bottom. It felt like my world was coming apart. Dad knows this. We didn't know how this was going to all work out. But that lowest point was when the divine inspiration hit me. And that kind of caricature that I drew out now 10 years ago, if I show that to you now, you will truly believe in God. Because everything that was up there, it doesn't look, it's a lot of chicken scratch, but every component, building the entrepreneur class, building a system that can manage energy transactions all over the world, building networks of entrepreneurs so you can create a local supply chain and connect it to a global supply chain. All of that, I had no clue about any of that. I was a vice president for Macy's. I sold lipstick in a mall. I had no background on technology. I had no background on supply chain mechanics. I had no background in entrepreneurship. For the most part, I was in retail. So everything that's happened the last 10 years, this is a completely new and different person that's been transformed, which is why I can say these things with such confidence. None of these things even were in mind until December 2014. All right, so we must keep in mind, actually, let's go back. Neville Goddard, in It's the Power of Awareness, he says, often our most elaborate and original thoughts are determined by another. So what we're going to challenge ourselves to now is we have to stay tuned in to what that is as our chief aim. Because the influences from others, advice is just that, adding a vice. They're just going to add their limitations, their limited beliefs, their shared experiences, and it could potentially convert into a doubt in you that, again, is going to unfold because nothing can come from corn but corn. So try and eliminate as much as possible your interaction with distracted people, because distracted people distract people. Allen reminds us the soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, that which it loves, and also that which it fears. It reaches the height of its cherished aspirations and falls to the level of its unchastened desires. And circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. So your circumstance, and a real simple way to put this is you get what you give. What you offer, you're going to get back. It's like a boomerang effect. So the tongue is really a tool for liars, right? It's all in here. If you really, you look back at history, how many people have said one and their actions were completely different? I don't even ask that. I know everybody's experienced that. But the point being, orient yourself to what's happening in the world. Listen a lot less to them and listen inside. Let what's happening inside, once you calm down, now, because you can turn your mind into the cycle place of worst case scenarios and things that are going to happen to you that even have no bearing. So you got to calm the mind. This is prayer. This is meditation. It's to get you to slow down. Listen to some jazz. Listen to some 528 hertz. Because as long as it's doing that, what's going to keep? Nothing can come from corn but corn. I've lost my ATM card like 3 times in the last 96 hours. Yeah, case in point. But I do want to leave us with that. Circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. So think of your journey in life as a mirror reflecting our deepest, most frequent, and most endearing mental activity. That's what's reflecting your deepest, your most frequent, and most endearing, meaning what you really believe, that activity. Life is telling you in real time what's happening in your mind. You can believe it or not. Just imagine, we get up every morning, most of us, and we look in a mirror. That mirror is just reflecting what is. We can't bash the mirror if, we got a belly and all those things. I've lost like 35 pounds, and every morning I'll get up and look in the mirror like, who's this guy? It's you. That's exactly who the guy is. So if I get, and I go start punching the mirror, That's nothing. It's not going to change who the guy is. I got to start eating fruits, vegetables. I have to start running. I have to start taking activities that are commensurate with the six-pack that I want. Eventually, I'll get there, Pastor Campbell. Now, here's the real inner work. Don't allow yourself to get held back or stuck in the past, whether it be what you thought, what you did, or what you allowed to happen. So much of what we do is we transform good things in our life to bad things because we feel like we don't deserve them. Or we turn or we convert that guy into what that guy was. I do it all the time, and I caught myself, and I told Tracy about this. I just went in, and I'm not like a crier, but I went to the closet. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I stuck in this pattern? It's not, I don't not like this, and I don't do that, but I traced the beliefs that were hidden down. I traced what I was identifying with. I traced those impurities in mine, and I let them go. That's when you surrender to God. You let it go. Stop trying to fix it out here in this world. It's almost like saying, hey, I'm going to go run 5 miles to Wrightsville Beach on a treadmill. Think about that. You're not going to move. You're going to have the same activity. You're going to burn all the calories. You're going to be trying to run as fast as you can, and you're still stuck in that one spot. So, 1 John chapter 1 through 9. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. To cleanse. You're starting to see he's purifying those doubts in mind. Luke 6, verse 37. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Remember, the aimless thinking, the mind wandering, is a vice. We have to reorganize our inner world. We have to reorganize our thought patterns to align with that vision. Our chief purpose in life, our chief definitive aim, what that chief goal is. Because everything that we put in is going to bring forth. This is why it's so exciting. So imagine if you just stay with me here and just held in mind positive things. That's what it is that you want. What would your experience be like then? This is point number 5. Raise the vibration. Feeling is the secret. We got to raise our vibration. And we hear people talk about vibration all the time. I have a very simple definition of vibration is your mood towards yourself in life. That's what's going to be reflected. People don't reflect you. They reflect what's going on in them. You can interact with someone that's having a terrible day, and they just tear you apart. That has absolutely nothing to do with you or your experience. That's a reflection of them. That's their coin. So earlier we discussed the importance of censoring that negative self-talk about situations, the events, the circumstances, because ultimately those deposits in mind, they're going to bring forth their fruit. The mind is the garden. Your mindset is the soil. What you actively put in that soil is going to bring forth fruit. So, and this is mine. So if you write these down and it becomes like $1 billion thought, I need a cut. All right? So this is the process to raise your vibration. And we've converted it to an acronym, RAISE, R-A-I-S-E. So the RAISE stands for recognize. Recognize the emotional response and the pattern that it's revealing. Don't judge yourself. Don't give yourself negative connotations. Recognize the pattern. Recognize how you feel. Most negative emotional responses are related to insecurities, fears, doubts, worries, anxieties that we identify with our small mind, identifying with who we are, not what we are, as one with the Father. This is the first step to letting go and enabling God to intervene. So R is recognize. A is accept. Accept the feeling. Accept that it didn't make you feel good. Accept that it made you feel really good. Accept the emotional response without condemnation or judgment, but with an approach trying to understand that root cause and what you're identifying with. Remember, the emotions are just records of the past. It's just a record of the past, and it's just energy and motion. It's actually a tool to help us discern what's going on with our mental activity. If somebody pulls out in front of you and you just blank and go out in the road rage and pull out a gun, That's a bit disproportionate, brother. What's happening, what's going on back there that solicit that response? It wasn't the guy that pulled out in front of you. I investigate. This is the fun part. Our beliefs are the building blocks for our life experiences. You literally are what you believe you are. So when experiencing these negative emotions, we must investigate the belief, the thought, the pattern that's associated with it. Quite often our beliefs have changed, but our emotional responses don't. So your beliefs change, but you tie the same level of emotional response to it. This is why we got to investigate that, because you're going to change. The universe is progressive. Nothing change. The only thing that's constant in the world is change. All right, S. I forgot how to spell. S, surrender. Now, James chapter 4, verse 7 gives us very, very clear, concise instructions. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Simple and plain. Letting go of that sack of bricks. Surrender to the negative feeling, the negative thoughts. So you know what? I don't feel good about her. I don't like her shoes, whatever. But surrender to it. And now give yourself room for those occupiers in mind to be released. We must surrender and sacrifice beliefs, ideas, and values that no longer align with the new mind. All right, so Luke chapter 5, 37 through 39 reminds us that, and no man putteth new wine into old bottles. No man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine will burst the bottles and be spilled, and the bottles shall perish. But new wine must be put into new bottles. Right, so new wine, new mindset must be put into a new you, and both are preserved. No man also having drunk old wine straightway desireth new. For they say the old is better. Because, let's break that down a little bit. In other words, the new way of thinking will not reveal itself if held prisoner by the old mindset. You have to surrender the mindset. So that means you have to surrender the things that you used to react to, or the thinking activity that's causing you to react to that. This is our biggest challenge because it's so internal, and we built so many patterns. I'm 46 years old, so I've done, just say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, where you're going to have to process things a little bit differently in order to achieve that purpose in life. You must change. You must change is strong. People get evolve. That's what we must do. Let's put it in that context. We must evolve, which is our last letter, E. Evolve. Allen states, as a progressive and evolving being, man is where he is that he may learn, that he may grow, and as he learns the spiritual lesson which any circumstance contains for him, but passes away and gives place to other circumstances. So in other words, those old thought patterns are going to continue to go over and over and over and over again until you let them go. Unless we evolve our thinking, we will continue to have the same challenges, same excuses, same narratives, same outcomes. If we allow the one God within us to help us evolve, we will see that our life, our alteration of our circumstances, will be in exact ratio with our altered mental condition. Just test it. I'm gonna say that again. Actually, I didn't know I wrote that. So if we allow the one God within us to help evolve, we will see that our life and our alteration of our circumstances are in exact ratio with our altered mental condition and self-talk. So, thank you, Joe. Our last one. I think because I don't know, I don't even know where my timer is. I don't even know where 2 minutes, perfect, man. I'm killing it. So, you are your ideal now. Be still and know that I am. We sometimes never feel good enough, especially in our community. Tracy and I have been talking about this so much. We've been pre-programmed to be a subjugate. That's where you were. All of us were programmed, whether it be by parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. Think about how we came to this experience. You were programmed as a cachet in a social structure. So you're programmed to just get along. That's the world. But now we understand that we're so much bigger than that. John chapter 10, verse 30. I and the Father are one. Remember, there is only one God, and we are all his children, identical in nature, different only in degree of expression of the one true God. We are all identical in nature, different only in expression of the one God that exists. This is why we're all brothers and sisters. This is why the conflicts and all those things, and I know sometimes I sound like a hippie, but we have to love each other, or we're not loving God, because there's only one God. We're all unique expressions of that one God. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. All right, so our last deal here. So allow yourself grace as you handle mistakes, missteps, obstacles, and challenges. Handle those lovingly. So fail is a four-letter word in our society. But again, we've changed fail into an acronym that now has been transmuted into something positive. So fail, F-A-I-L. Fail is first attempt in learning. Right? You're gonna have out in Silicon Valley, it was so cool, man, because every incubator, every place that I was in, they wanted us to fail. They wanted us to find the flaws. So it was a completely liberated environment. You weren't worrying about making mistakes, because that hampers your creative flow if you're worrying about making mistakes. So that's where that first attempt in learning kind of mantra comes from. Quite often, our securities block us from the beauty of being humble and allowing God to operate within us. God does that through people, places, things, and opportunity. So be open to all that God is revealing through you. This last thing, I got a second. You are the sculpture and the sculpture. So you are the sculptor and the sculpture. You're both. You're the finished product, and you're both of them simultaneously. So sometimes we modify the masterpiece, which is us, and it's uncomfortable. It's challenging because you are the sculptor and the sculpture, and you have feelings. But understand, in order to bring forth the true purpose in life, the sculpture must adapt to the mind of the sculptor. So you're going to feel different sometimes. There are going to be challenges. The universe is mental, held in the mind of all. So in closing, 2 paragraphs. The outer world of circumstances, what we call physical life, the physical world, is directly and intrinsically linked to the inner world of thoughts, our self-talk, and our inner beliefs. Albert Einstein, I went on a mission to kind of physically prove that God exists when I was out in California. So I did a lot of work with energy science. I studied a lot of Einstein. And Albert Einstein said this, and it's rarely ever quoted. I've never seen it in the mainstream press, but this is true. Einstein stated, the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. The field is the sole governing agency of the particle. I'm going to break that down. In his model, the field is thought energy. The physical world is the particle. So he says your thought energy controls your physical world. So I'll close by saying, if the God in us is everything, then there is no need to feel anything. Thank you all for your time. Have a blessed week.